So following the guilty judgment in the Sifiso Mkhwanazi sex workers murder case, we'll take a look this morning at how vulnerable this group is and what mechanisms exist to ensure the safety of sex workers. For instance, I know that last year, I think it was Gauteng, that had a campaign launched by the provincial government that rolled out panic buttons to sex workers. We're also going to touch on this idea, whether it has helped as well. So let's speak to two of our guests now, one from the South African National AIDS Council and sex work leader Katlego Rasibetse, as well as from the Sisonke National Sex Workers Movement. We also have the Communications Membership and Evaluation Officer, Yonela Singh. Well, thank you very much to you both for joining us on the program this morning. Katlego, I want to start with you. I understand that between 2022 and 2023, close to, I think it's 400 sex workers have been killed. Are these statistics correct? And I understand that this is only what you have on the basis of going to communities to ask, and those numbers could actually be higher.
Yes, Griselda, this is what we have as the movement. And remember, some of these deaths that maybe were recorded, it's because of some families will literally say, they would pull out in the process of us documenting such death to say, but my sister is not a sex worker because now that she's already murdered, it's hard for us even to document such incidents. And the number could be even more because of when you look at the stigma that is happening around sex work, whereby like even now the police are the biggest perpetrators. And we have seen it in lots of reports, even at the social development deputy minister made it very clear in 2022 to say the police have now actually made the sex workers their ATMs, which is quite shocking for us to have such reports. And it's little that's being done to make sure that the protection of sex workers in the country, it's done due to the colonizing laws that are still existing and have been practiced by the country. Remember, Griselda, when sex work in South Africa was actually declared a criminal act, it was in 1967, which is clearly 60 years ago, and clearly by the oppressors by then. But living in a democratic country where, like, if I'm an adult, I say it's my body, it's my business, I need to be fully protected by the constitution of the country.
I want to bring you in, Yonela, there. And, you know, what Katlego refers to is we know that the amendment of the Sexual Offences Act, was due to lead to the decriminalization of sex work. Now, this is a crucial part. He speaks about, atrocities that are still being meted out against sex workers. How much of a hurdle does this continue to be? Because this was halted, I think, sometime last year, this amendment.
Yes, Chris, thank you for having me. You know, the criminalization of sex work dates back to 1957, as my colleague has noted. In 2007, it was amended to criminalize both the seller now and the buyer. So now, when word came in that the Minister of Correctional Services and Justice is looking into decriminalizing sex by amending the law, saying that it will now allow sex workers the freedom to trade and the buyer the freedom, and obviously taking since adults. So them coming back and slapping us with regulation, saying that, well, this bill must now be regulated but now that is what is very confusing. How do you regulate something that is still criminalized? Because that bill that was halted in June last year only had two asks, and that was allowing the buyer to sell and allowing the seller to sell and allowing the buyer to buy, and also expunging previously existing criminal records. So if you are charged under the Sexual Offences Act, you are charged no differently in the view of the law, the same as a rapist and so forth. But now these are women who are just merely looking to provide for themselves. So to then be charged in the same view as a pedophile or a rapist is totally unfair. And those are things that have been overlooked over and over again, and all dates back to oppression.
Katlego, I know that I think it was last year there were these panic buttons that had been rolled out. I think in Limpopo, yes, and definitely here in Gauteng as well, in terms of safety. Has this helped at all?
Griselda, remember, yes, it was a great initiative that, the movement also welcomed. But in the process of that, for the fact that now it was also linked into the media to say these memezas, that's what they were called, these whistles, like alarms, they were now given to sex workers, of which we felt that on its own, it was totally wrong for them to specifically say they are being given to sex workers. I will make just a simple example, Griselda. Remember when PrEP in 2016 was launched, it was also attached to, it will be first given to sex workers. So the police, for them to actually verify that Griselda is a sex worker, they must search you. If they find PrEP in 2016, then definitely they would know that Griselda, she is doing sex work. And now, because of the police, now they are aware that these memezas are being owned by sex workers. Literally now, the police, what they're doing is they are tracking those who are having memezas to identify them, to say indeed, for the fact that it's known that this particular device belongs to sex workers, then the police will use that as evidence for arrest. And not only that, the community now on its own, the minute they realize that, these memezas are being given to sex workers, now that's when now the stigma comes in. That's when now the discrimination comes in, like the outing of people. Because remember, sex work is still seen as a taboo in the country, and it's being tailored as a profession for specifically poor black women, and that narrative needs also to be changed, because of we have seen sex work is broader than what the media is kind of like tailored it to be. So clearly the memezas, it was just a bad idea that I will now say that was specifically given to sex workers, especially in Limpopo and in Gauteng. I will just make a simple example, Griselda. Imagine you being a mom at home, and then your 14-year, 16-year-old, 15-year-old comes in with a memeza that you clearly know that this memeza belongs to a sex work. You would definitely freak out, because of that's how it was portrayed, that it has to be given to sex workers. But it was going to be easy if it was given for women who feels that they are not safe by the community and safety department. That it was going to be something else.
Katlego, what can be done then? Yes, there are these measures that are being put in place, but stigma still plays a very huge role in, what are some of the challenges that you speak of now. What would you want to see done in addition to the decriminalization of sex work, of course, and these amendments that the sector has been calling for such a long time?
What we want to see, it's definitely when those in politics, especially when you have seen the manifestos, anything that has to do in sex work, when it comes to the political party manifestos, it's empty. Like, it's very empty in a manner that it's actually taboo. And you're asking yourself, but the very same people are asking for a vote of sex workers themselves. And remember, the very same law did not only criminalize the sex workers, which is the same, also the buyers, as Ususionela has said. And if you look at the current state of the estimation in the country, we are having 188,000 self-identified sex workers in the country. That on its own, we can literally start a political party and have a 2 or 3 seats in parliament, whereby like now decriminalization of sex work, it can be verbally pushed into parliament to say we still are counting all the political parties. Okay, come on board and tell us what does sex workers vote means to you as a political party.
Yeah, and I find this very interesting because I think from the manifestos that we've listened to thus far, and of course I stand to be corrected, there's been a lot of talk previously about the decriminalization of sex work, but I don't really hear anything being said at the launch of these manifestos. Do you feel left out? Do you feel like none of these political parties are speaking to you?
I think some of these political parties, when they are doing these resolutions, are being done not when it's the manifesto time. They're just being done in conferences, some of these resolutions, to say X and X, they have now taken a resolution to look into the call to decriminalize sex work. But when they launch the manifestos, that's when now you see sex work, it doesn't appear. So it's almost like it's a game they are playing. When it suits them, they will throw in the word sex work. But when now they feel like it doesn't suit them into their manifesto, that's when you see sex work doesn't appear. And it has become now almost like a fashion statement that our political parties are using. You will see it after May, when now if the dust is settled, you will see again when political parties are coming on board to say we support sex workers because they know. And again, it's the fear of us being a religious country. But me, by saying that, because of most people that are voting are more Christian, and political leadership, they are afraid to say they might lose a vote if they were to throw in sex work as a protection of human rights into their manifesto. So that only plays a role again.
Yonela, let me come to you there. Is there a conflation between human trafficking and sex work? I know this is some of the issues that were raised by yourselves with regard to that.
You know, Griselda, every time we mention sex work, already people have this response that you are encouraging human trafficking. I think people need to start understanding what human trafficking is and what human trafficking entails. No sex worker in this country has enough money or any kind of resource to traffic another human being. Trafficking takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and this is something sex workers don't have. If people were to sit down and understand and listen to us with comprehension, what is sex work, and then go and find out what is human trafficking, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because currently people are saying our children are going to be trafficked, women are going to be trafficked. But that is not the responsibility of sex workers to stop human trafficking. We have a whole division within SABC to combat that. And, you know, every time sex work comes out, people start having their own ideas of how this thing is going to affect the next person, not considering human rights aspects of the whole thing. Because if you are saying criminalize sex work, you are actually violating that person's right to violating that person's freedom to economic freedom, violating that person's right to association. Now, to go and add human trafficking, which is taken care of, is bisect a whole division there and saying that sex workers are responsible to stop it or they are encouraging it. So it's very irresponsible for anyone to go and say it is just a mere statement to rubbish efforts to have a progressive constitution in this country.
Well, to you both, thank you very much for engaging with us here on the program.